Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm back with yet another video ripping apart this absolutely terrible, awful, like bottom of the barrel garbage book, Almost Lost by the late fraud Beatrice Sparks, which was published in 1996. This is going to be a preview of a blog post which will be going live on my main blog tomorrow, on St. Patrick's Day of 2025. So if you're watching this video before that date, consider this a sneak preview. And this is roughly 25 more things wrong with the book. I think I'll have one more video after this, and then I'll do like a wrap up, like full detailed like synopsis and reviews. Oh, this book just makes me so angry, particularly the number one reason I hated so much, her complete ignorance of mental health and psychology. I'm going to be getting into that in much more detail in a future video I have planned for Mental Health May. Like so many things we know from her books, like proving she was not a real psychologist as she claimed, like just her total complete ignorance. But anyway, let's just start ripping it apart again. Beatrice Sparks's 1996 book ranks as her absolute worst I have ever read. Now, I have not yet read Voices. I think that was from like 1977. That got really hammered in the reviews too, but so maybe that book will be like worse than this one. But from everything I've read so far, like, yeah, this is taking the freaking cake. Bottom of the barrel crap, garbage, bottom scrapings, crap. She was never even a mediocre writer. Sorry, not sorry. But choosing a case study format instead of the usual fake diary did nothing but bring her failures as a writer to the fore. Like, she probably sensed by the terrible reviews, just as she did for Voices, wow, I really effed up there. I'd better go back to the tried and true. I just totally out of my league trying to write something resembling an actual narrative story instead of just the epistolary format I'm familiar with. Number 21, this continues the numbering from the previous video. Everything is too textbook. Like Sammy's depression, the symptoms and the manifestations and all that. His willingness to get help, his recovery, his agreement with whatever Dr. Fraud spews, Lance, his dad, breaking down and admitting he behaved abominably after like all of, one session. Oh, I'm bawling, I'm a crybaby, I'm in tears, oh, you have every right to never want to see me again, wah, I can't write male characters for crap. The family patching up their massive issues with neat hospital corners in record time, just like everything about it. She did not know how to gradually develop characters and storylines and like dramatic tension. Nope, just dump it all out on the page. It's, perfect. That's totally textbook symptoms, textbook reactions. There's never any like, dark moment or like wondering, oh, will this, happy ending ever come to be? Or is this couple going to like stay together? Are they going to break up for good? Like anything like that. She just like, bam, rushed it along, did not know how to develop. But of course, if she had develop things, that would have meant she would have been forced to write books that are longer than this. And believe it or not, this is actually one of her longest books. Most of her books aren't even like novel length. They're just like novella length. But anyway, number 122. The title is totally misleading, since Sammy clearly was never almost lost if he so easily and quickly seeks help and only lived on the streets for a brief while. Again, like maybe I just like missed this because I was not really paying that much attention. I just want to like choke it down as quick as I can so I can finally be finished with this crap. So he was like joining a gang at school, and they decided to, that'll be fun. Let's just move to LA because we know some dudes there. We'll just be homeless and live on the streets. Yeah, that sounds like a fun time. And so anyway, like during that time on the streets, he was like shot in a drive-by by mistake, and his buddies like dropped him off at the hospital. He spent some time recovering there, and he's picked up like hitchhiking. He claimed to the driver taking him to his alleged pretended aunt's house. Oh, drop me off on the LA freeway. I can walk. It's only a block away. Okay, sure. That's not unsafe, dangerous at all. Okay, have a fun life. And he hitchhikes and gets picked up by a PDF file driving like a 16-wheel truck. He runs away at the gas station, and he's found by a nice elderly or older couple. I don't remember their exact age, Carl and Maisie, and with their dog, who finds him when he's hiding under bushes. So they take him back to their trailer park to recover, and then he goes back home to Mommykins after a while. So 3.5 months, roughly, all of these events apparently happened since he ran away at the first therapy session. So again, this he wasn't probably even living on the streets for that 3.5 months. He was like in hospital and living in a couple's trailer. So like this, nothing about her books are consistent. Like the title doesn't make any sense. Number 123. If the episode of Lance beating Sammy while high on coke was so traumatic and life-altering, why does Sammy only bring it up after Lance starts trying to rebuild a relationship that also happened 10 months ago, as compared to the far more recent episodes of the whole like running away and living on the streets and gang banging and like the hitchhiking episode and the couple nursing him back to health again and staying in the hospital before that? Dr. Fraud was totally out of her league with non-linear narrative. I'm having a hard time like following when exactly all this stuff happened, because he just like, oh, I'll randomly talk about this at the next therapy session. No, it has nothing to do with anything, and it's not coming all in order. Again, she was completely out of her league. This was a total failure of a format for her. 124. The doctor or nurse who treated Sammy's previous broken ribs from a skiing accident was just as out of touch with modern standards of care as Paula, his mother, who had previously tightly wrapped his ribs after he got the jumping in to join the harpoon gang, the gang at his high school. Even in the 90s, wrapping broken ribs hadn't been done for decades. Like, doctors and nurses know better now. That kind of like restricts breathing and jumps up your heart rate and like cuts off the flow of oxygen. Now it's the standard care is just like stabilize the person, try not to move, except maybe, of course, like going to the bathroom, or maybe like and now and then when you absolutely have to like not sit in a chair or a bed all day. But again, like you just don't wrap broken ribs anymore, because we know that does way more damage. Number 125. Everything in this book is way too over the top. The language, scenarios, reactions, actions, you name it. But she did not know how to be subtle at all. It's just bang, bang, bang. I'm writing a hot-hitting morality play. It's like an after-school special in print. It has to be like way too hyperbolic, because like who wants to read a story where people are fairly normal? It all has to be the worst case, most extreme scenarios, and most, like loony language. She loved repeating a word thrice for emphasis. 126. Dr. Fraud obviously made liberal use of the thesaurus, as I've talked about in many previous videos, as evidenced by how Sammy is constantly using million-dollar show-off words. I should have been keeping a list. Yet she failed to find new words to vary up her own language. Wow. For example, she constantly calls bad memories and trauma garbage, occasionally varying up the descriptive adjective. Like she'll usually call it gagging garbage, which she does in many other books too, and sometimes she'll call it fetid garbage, or a couple of other, adjectives here and there. But again, she was not a very good writer at all. 127. Thanks to the nonlinear narrative, I was totally confused when Sammy said he only experimented with drugs before unsuccessfully attempting to use some of Lance's coke. And when he's pouring a line down the coffee table, he drops the box on the floor, and that's how it all starts sinking into the carpet, and Lance comes upon him by surprise, and he's livid. Oh, how dare you waste my drugs, boy. How are we supposed to keep track of the timeline when it jumps all over the place? And I was actually, for this number in the list, I was starting to say, why are we supposed to believe Sammy only experimented when, he was a tough gang boy living on the streets, and he was so familiar with drugs, he's constantly blurting out these slang terms for them, which Dr. Fraud helpfully defines in parentheses in the dialogue. And then, but then I realized, this is in September, and the therapy session, he's talking about it, and this incident happened over Christmas vacation, and the running away happened sometime in the spring. So, it was in the past, before he actually started doing drugs, and somewhat after this, Sammy writes a note to Dr. Fraud talking about how, he was totally trashed out of his mind on drugs when he was living on the streets as a tough gang boy. So again, I was confused, and nonlinear narrative is very difficult to pull off properly, and she obviously failed here. It's even trickier to pull off than present tense, let alone first person present, which is so trendy now. But I would prefer that, believe it or not, first person present tense over nonlinear narrative, unless you absolutely know what you're doing. And it's not even the so-called, easiest, most traditional type most people would be familiar with, like, someone is telling a story or trying to solve a mystery about, something that happened in the past, and you like regularly switch back and forth between the two timelines, and they have like, wrap around narrative segments in the present and stuff like that. But that's not even like that. It's just, I don't even have words for how like stupid and confusing it is to keep track of all these dumb, like, nonlinear events she's doing. Number 128. If Sammy is so committed to staying straight edge, why in the world does he want to try Lance's coke? What's going on upstairs? Particularly if he's so disgusted by watching Lance and his buddies coking up. Again, seriously? There's zero explanation of his thought process. Just, I had no idea what came over me. I just wanted to do drugs all of a sudden. Oh, a demon possessed me. 129. And if he's truly so disgusted to see them, why doesn't he call the cops or go back to his mother? Just like slip out of the house, like, make a phone call, and they're coming to the apartment or the home wherever Lance lives to bust him and his friends by the time Sammy is like safely gone back to Paula and his little sisters. Like, again, she was totally inconsistent with like, writing everything. 130. How in blazes are Lance and his buddies glorifying drugs, sex, and alcohol? Like, again, what? When Sammy only saw them using coke. Seriously, there was no mention of any kind of like alcohol or sexual activities in this whole scene. Are we supposed to infer they were also drinking and having an orgy, or maybe like pleasuring themselves? Who knows with her mind? And Go Ask Alice. Dr. Fraud repeatedly pushes the propaganda that drugs make you gay. I'm not kidding. That's just like, seriously. And she also does this, I'm told, in Voices. And she was nailed, like hammered in these critical reviews in the 70s for her homophobia in Voices. And she also had like, homophobic content in Jay's Journal. And, like Mormons, that's how they think. 131. Dr. Fraud pushes Sammy to talk about traumatic experiences he clearly isn't emotionally ready to revisit, just so he can dump that whole gagging load of fetid garbage once and for all. I cannot wait to rip into her in even further detail during the video I'm going to be making for Mental Health May about her total psychological ignorance. This is just the tip of the iceberg I'm mentioning in these videos. 132. Dr. Fraud shows zero understanding of cognitive development when she has Sammy constantly showing levels of self-reflection and mental maturity far beyond any 15-year-old. And she does this with all of her other characters too. I will also be talking about that in more detail in my upcoming psychology video. And who knows, I might have so much to say I'll have to split that into like a 3, 4, whatever part series too. 133. Sammy talks about all these traumatic episodes from his past in amazing levels of detailed recall and narrates them like he's writing a fictional story. I wonder. Instead of talking casually and unrehearsed, particularly with the language he's using. Total giveaway. This was 100% made up and not a real case study. Like, again, like if you're just talking off the cuff, unrehearsed, like in therapy, you might say, oh, I saw my dad, or Lance, because I'm not refusing to call him dad at this point. Oh, I saw Lance and his friends using cocaine, and it really made me angry and disgusted. You're not going to go into all these details about exactly what you saw and how you got it out of the hiding place when you thought Daddy wasn't watching, and you tried to do it in all these other details about life on the streets. Again, you're just going to do the most important, like, largest big picture things, unless it's like an interview or you're deliberately writing a fictional story, like, or trying to do memoirs or whatever. But again, she was a failure as a writer in every single level. 134. Dr. Fraud shows her total ignorance of psychology yet again when she says, as soon as you get all the bad and sad garbage out of your body, you can replace the black, haunting negatives with bright, wholesome, peace and happiness-giving positives. What a stupid sentence. Are Mormons really just that good at so completely repressing all negative feelings and memories? But I do know now they like to smile at funerals, and they actually chide people, including children, if they're daring to show anguish, like crying at a funeral instead of, yay, daddy or mommy or whoever is now in the celestial kingdom and families are forever. Like, how dare you be sad at a funeral? You should be happy your loved one went to the celestial kingdom in Kolob and their own little planet to be sealed for all time and eternity with the family. You should be looking forward to going there soon, too. 135. Dr. Fraud continues putting the onus of blame for depression and thinking one's way out of a mental health crisis. This is so irresponsible. Onto Sammy, even after he said he says he was suicidal for weeks after Lance beat him. This is just like, oh, it totally, takes the top. And I think I might be getting into that a bit later as well. It's just like so freaking stupid. Oh, can you imagine what that did to a kid who had committed to staying straight? Yeah, this is a whole like drug episode I bookmarked, and I had tried, my 4 close friends and I had tried very hard to think seriously about drugs, alcohol, and sex. Now these crazy, depraved old men were glorifying all three. Again, only drugs were mentioned. There was no sex or alcohol in that scene at all. Like, I'm so alone, even in the middle of a crowd of people. I'm like alone on an always dark, always will be dark island. Don't worry about that, Sammykins. Most people who are carrying heavy negative burdens feel that their lights have gone out, or at least dim perceptibly. Yeah, we've talked about how defeat and negativism drowns out sunshine, and I believe it. I know it, but I'm still all covered with dark inside. Does that mean you've absolutely got to expel every bit of the darkness you've been hoarding? For sure. And it's like, he keeps going on about all these like details. Oh, I kept slipping, and he talks about like his, wanting to unalive himself and detail like, oh, I was imagining how I would go into the coffin in the earth, and she's still like her like toxic positivity garbage. 136. Does anyone, even toddlers, really use the term cow pies? Wow, that's so babyish beyond belief. She also used this term in Kim Empty Inside, and she and Sammy use this term like repeatedly in this book. Like what again? Number 137. A real psychologist would immediately contact a psych ward if a patient said he was suicidal, not merely encouraging him to think of trusted adults to confide in about his problems if it happens again. And like Sammy's like, oh yeah, I can talk to my tennis teacher or my awesome new principal, Dr. Davidson, or Mr. Driggs, my school counselor, or Uncle Gordo, or Aunt Marion, or Grandma Gordon, because I'm allergic to serial lists without commas, or the preacher at the church where I used to go. Isn't Sammy supposed to be a Catholic? Spiritual leaders at Catholic churches are called priests. They're not called, or maybe bishops sometimes. They're never called preachers. Again, like she didn't understand anything outside of Mormonism, if he's still there, or the new preacher, if he isn't. Actually, I could even call the helpline that's advertised on our school bulletin board. I never thought I would before, but any of those things could help nip a problem in the bud, couldn't they? That she's missing a comma there. Or help a person get turned around. They certainly would help if you would let them. Yeah, I'll bet any of them could have and would have helped me see that because one apple on the tree goes rotten, it doesn't mean that none of the rest of the apples are fit to eat. Sammy, you ought to write a book with all your profound sayings on it. Oh, and then she's like getting all like lovey-dovey with that, just stupid. Oh, could you say you stopped altogether trying to make a sunshine cake and started putting together only ingredients which make cow pies? She uses it like over and over again. Mental poisoning is even more dangerous than physical poisoning, and maybe self-forgiveness is the equivalent of a second chance. Oh, and I was wrong to blame Lance for wanting to unalive myself. It was all my fault. I'm still so hurting. I'm punctured and bruised and broken and bleeding in every single part of my body and soul. Not only that, but it's like he rubbed salt and broken glass and acid into each of my gaping wounds, rubbed them in while he was laughing and tearing me down in every way known to man. Now the bastard sees I'm beginning to heal, and he won't let me. He doesn't want me to heal. He enjoys seeing me crying and moaning and groaning and suffering. Again, the serial list with no commas. He viciously intrudes into my dreams to watch me, and he like continues like ranting and ranting and rant. Whoa, Sammy, slow down. Now could be the time to detach from all your fetid past. Are you ready? Oh, and she talks about all this like other stuff too. Yeah, I'll be getting to that in a moment. The stupid like exercise she goes through. Yeah, I found the particular passage which I was looking for. Now that I think back on that black, deep, no daylight sewage tunnel I wandered through for so long, I'm amazed. I could have gotten out at any time. Yeah, that's not how mental health, real depression works, Sammy. Nothing held me hostage down there. Yes, something did. You're neg-tudes. I'm down with the kids, even though I'm pushing 80. I'm the fun Dr. B. By then you had given them complete authority, jurisdiction, and prerogative over every aspect of your life, physical, mental, and spiritual. And they were expanding and multiplying and taking over your complete existence like weeds, Sammy interrupted. Like, how dare she say it's his own fault for being suicidal, and it could have magically thought his way out of it. 138. Dr. Fraud talks Sammy through a ridiculous self-hypnosis I was just mentioning, where he magically purchasing himself of all negative memories and feelings forever, including depression, because a good little Peter Priesthood always represses his trauma so he can smile and keep sweet. Oh, of course, more caps. Here, in case. Oh, yeah, close your eyes and restfully and slowly take in 3 big, cleansing, oxygen-filled breaths through your nose. Let go of all the negative toxins in your body. As you breathe out through your mouth, cleansing air coming in, negative toxins going out. Allow your subconscious to say to your material body, I see a large, sturdy white plastic sheet on the floor. I feel quite quiet. I feel comfortably relaxed as I start placing all the past negatives of my life in the center of the plastic sheet. Cue the all caps. It is as though, cue the italics too, someone else, not me, is doing the following things. The detached person hears Lance saying shockingly terrible things about subjects we had always been taught to respect, and good things about subjects we had always been taught to disrespect. Don't open your eyes, just see Lance's words and actions, as though they were tangible colored blobs being placed in the center of the sheet. What color are they? Red as mixed flames and blood. Next, the detached person sees the feelings you had when you watched Lance use cocaine. Those tangible blobs are taken and placed on the sheet. What color are they? They're red mixed with black lightning bolt streaks of shattering electricity. Can the detached person see Lance beating up on his son and screaming at him? Yeah, it's unreal, though. What color are those sounds and actions? Black, hard, jagged. Some have blood dripping from them and orange and green slime. And what color are the blobs the young innocent boy Sammy sees as he tries to get away? Heavy, heavy, heavy. Repeated 3 times. Scared black wiggly lines. Some with scary monster shapes. Oh, I'm scared of monsters at 15. What color are the blobs at the bus station and on the bus and transferring from one bus to another? Black as the blackest night and piercing like arrows and bullets and axes and knives. Have they all been dumped on the pile? Yes. What about when the boy Sammy gets home? What colors are there? At first they're almost normal, then blackness begins to filter in from all directions and take over. Can those colors be placed on the pile? Yes. What colors are the hostilities at school? They grow from regular to roadkill pizza colors to black, deep, sucking down black. Mormons had a thing black equals negative, black skin means you've been cursed. I'm not making this up. They really believe people who have black skin were cursed because they didn't take the right side in a battle between good and evil in the Joe Smith's Bible fanfic. Are they dumped? Yes. What about the colors during the school gang period? Got to the point where Sammy had begun to say the word he for himself, could only see colors other than black when he was being physically hurt or road screeching or tagging. Can he dump those colors? Yes, dumped. What about in Las Vegas when Blunt held up the man? Shades of gray and black, dumped. We're in East Los Angeles, all black with occasional stabs of red or orange. The drive-bys, the hurting young girl who reminded you of Dory, the dying pregnant girl who had been stabbed, all black with splashes of blood. The kitten? The kitten was the only real experience there. What about being shot in the Los Angeles General Hospital, the hall, the operating room, being treated disrespectfully, being released? All different shades of black, except the long, multicolored lines in the halls that even the workers had to use as road maps. The place is so big. Sammy was quiet for a few minutes. It's all dumped. Oh, magical thinking. The chicken hawk truck driver. It didn't dumped. We forgot to dump the time you hit Mo, and I'll go back on that in a little bit. Oh boy. 139. Dr. Fraud chastises Sammy for saying he'll never be able to forget hitting his ex Harmony, who goes by Mo. It burns me up that this charlatan got away with pretending to be a psychologist. How dare she? Through this whole entire book, she promotes magical thinking instead of legitimate treatment for trauma and depression. That was a hurtful, bleeding black blood from every pore of my body, time that I'll never be able to dump. Wait a minute, Sammy, that's not good magical thinking. You mean you want to carry it around like a sack of bricks for the rest of time? I'm not sure I can do anything else. That's up to you. Do you think I can dump it? I know you can if you really want to, and you honestly think you should, but most only one I truly love that I actually physically hurt. Sammy had come out of his self-induced trance and opened his eyes wide. That's true, but you've got to dump the incident before you can be well enough to repair the damage both to yourself and to her. What good is it going to do to keep picking on and opening up an old wound that needs to be healed? Dump the old, unclean, toxic, infection-inviting crud and go on to encourage healthy healing for both yourself and her. Is it really possible? Yes, it's possible. If you wipe the slate clean and start over on building yourself a rewarding, mentally and physically healthy lifestyle. Yeah, and she goes through the relaxation exercise thing again. Oh, it's all red and black and green and oozy, like says every 15-year-old boy ever. And I can smell it. The stench is so bad, it's also strangling me. Then relax into an even deeper state and let's pour disinfectant bleach around the edges of the pile. How big is the pile? Big as your lazy boy. Nice brand name dropping lounge chair. And so ugly it almost has a life of its own. It's moving, almost fighting. Of course it's moving and fighting. All those combined negative patternings don't want to leave you in control of all your emotions and actions. Let's pour more disinfectant bleach around the whole circle. And she again keeps going on with this stupid thing. To completely disinfect, bleach, and disintegrate Sammy's past pain into a white vapor, then into oblivion. Magical thinking. What the hell even was this? 140. She really amps up the Mormon conditioning when she tells Sammy to bite his tongue, pinch himself, or snap a rubber band against his wrist when he has negative thoughts. It doesn't work like that, Dr. A-hole. 141. Dr. Fraud tells Sammy to detach himself from negative feelings, like doctors do, to avoid feeling sick during surgery. And she also uses the example of cops and firefighters. One of these things not like the other. Can we say encouraging dissociation? Yeah, of course it's understandable, a professional doctor or a body piercer isn't saying, oh, woo woo, I get to touch and look at people's nipples and genitals all day. Wow, I'm so fun. This is so sexy. No, they learn to detach and see it as just another body part. Or if they're doing surgery, they can't be grossed out by the blood and the guts and whatever other stuff, body fluids are coming out of them person, or cutting into people's bodies. They learn to be emotionally detached from that. And firefighters, they can't give into panic when they're going into the burning building and carrying out people who might be heavier than they had expected, or maybe there's it's difficult to get out of the building because there's more fire building up. Or cops, they have to be emotionally detached when they deal with criminals and stuff. But that is completely different than just dissociate from all negative feelings, it'll be all right in the end, Sammy baby. Again, she was completely ignorant of psychology. This makes me so angry. 142. Dr. Fraud trashes people on welfare, as she did in Annie's Baby. Oh, who's to say why some families are on welfare for generation after generation after generation? Yeah, nice right-wing nut talking point. 143. What teen boy signs his name with all kinds of flourishes? I hate to stereotype people, but again, teenage boys, how many of them can you really picture in real life? All these fancy calligraphy flourishes and hearts and just flourishing up their name. That's something you associate with girls, and even most teen girls aren't signing their names with all kinds of flourishes. Is this something they do in the Morador? 144. Dr. POS calls herself a protective, nurturing mother figure to the kids she sees, yet she failed in this mission when she unrepentantly distorted Alden Barrett's real-life journal beyond belief. I have a video coming up about Jay's journal, what she did to that boy and his family. It was beyond forgiveness, and that alone disqualifies her as someone who should be taken seriously. Oh, Alice, go ask Alice got me off of drugs. I decided not to do drugs because of that. Oh, well, I guess that just cancels out being a con artist because, oh, you didn't do drugs because of the book. It doesn't matter. It's poorly written. And she was a shady, lying fraud artist. 145. Dr. Fraud didn't know how to write convincing male characters when she has Lance all sobbing and breaking down. Oh, I hear your pain. I know it. It's been a constant companion of mine for many years, especially when your mommy told me what had happened to you. I accept the blame. I should have told her then about my drug addiction, but for some crazy reason I felt I had to explain it to you first. I guess because I knew if you couldn't forgive me, she never could, and there's no way I would ever, like, break you up. And he's, like, sobbing and sobbing, and Sammy is having this, like, complete, like, unhinged, like, meltdown, just, like, ranting against him, and, like, Lance is continuing to need the ambulance. Oh, boy. Thank you very much for watching all the way through to the end. Please feel free to leave me a comment letting me know if you have ever read this book or heard about it, or if your experience with any of Dr. Fraud's other books. I have a couple of more videos coming up on this book, as I promised at the start, but I cannot wait to finish reading it. It's just one of the worst books I have, like, ever read. I hate Beatrice Sparks so much, and I'm so glad she's, like, finally definitively, like, publicly been exposed as a shameless fraud and con artist she was. So thanks again for watching, and I will see you soon. Bye.